Hello again, everybody. Welcome back. Another episode here of Banish the Doubt. I am George McNamara, and in today's video, what I would like to talk with you about is really just to kind of have a conversation, but angle it towards or have it come from a place of who we truly are at our core and how our core beliefs and definitions, assumptions, and perceptions how that dictates and is the path that we follow every single day of our life. And it is exemplified, if you will, by the people that we surround ourselves with, the type of job that we have, the industry that we're in, um, our social settings, our family life, the relationships we find ourselves in, the marriages, the boyfriend girlfriend relationship, the types of friends we have are all sort of derived from, if you will, these set of core beliefs. And I would like to talk with you about and have you sort of clear your mind for a moment and look at things from a different perspective. You see, as I've been walking this path ever since my cancer diagnosis and becoming much more introspective as to who I really am and with this core, I'm finding more and more out about decisions I've made in my life that led to the cancer diagnosis, excuse me, and really how this sort of thread, if you will, that I have followed, everything that has happened has been almost by design, which has led me to this moment right now, which has led you to this moment right now watching me. There are no accidents. I know you've probably heard this from time to time, but there are no accidents in this universe. Everything here is designed. But it's how we interpret what is designed for us and how we become aware of that and what we do with what we're becoming aware of that has us going down a path and then changing or pivoting. Now, that being said, I want to talk to you about I'm going to be getting more pads to draw on over here. You see this week. So some of the information I'm going to have for you today is I have typed out. So definitions and core beliefs. And this is from Stuart Wilde. He said, excitement by definition is the actual true physical translation of the vibration that presents your true core being. Let me say that again. Excitement, by definition, is the actual true physical translation of the vibration that presents your true core being. So anything that brings with it the highest level of excitement, love, creativity, passion is actually the thing to take action on, no matter what form it comes, because excitement is the thread that leads you to more of yourself and leads to all other things that can manifest in exciting ways. This is the thread to follow, not how things look on the surface. And that is how things look on the surface, how we interpret that is what the ego thinks is connected as the next thing you're supposed to be doing. But the things that come to you that contain the highest joy is the sign, is the signpost, is the marker of the next thing to do. And even though it may not, from our physical mentality point of view, seem like the quickest path, it actually is. Now, you've heard me talk about in previous videos the letters that I use: B, A, P, and D. Beliefs, assumptions, perceptions, and definitions. So it's the belief that we have about ourselves, the assumptions we have about our life and ourselves, the perception, how we perceive our life, and the definition, how we define ourselves in every situation. Those areas of our life, the things that we think about, that we believe, that we perceive, assume, and define, lead directly to everyone and everything that is in our life. Because based on those, we attract all of these people, circumstances, and things into our life. So definitions, Stewart talked about here, he said, are ingrained beliefs, so core belief. Okay, specifically what that belief is and how we define our relationship to any given situation. Who you think, in air quote, you are in relation to what's happening in your life. Your definition of yourself in that situation. For example, as you experience things, you have certain reactions or responses to them emotionally. Those emotional responses are completely derived from your definition of who you are in relation to that thing. So if you are in a situation, you find you're having a negative emotional reaction or experience to it, that is primarily due to the definitions you have to it about yourself. And this is allowing you to color your energy in that way. And those definitions are most likely out of alignment with your true being. If you have an experience of a response that is joyful to the situation, or that the very least neutral, then most likely your definitions are in harmony with your true self. Who you define yourself to be is more aligned and more harmonious. A core belief definition in a situation where a person says they are struggling to create abundance in their life, when they look deep within their definitions, they'll likely find that they've been taught conflicting beliefs. Now, let's just say, I know for instance, myself growing up, you need to have money in order to succeed. But then at the same time, I was told by how I was brought up in the church that, well, money is the root of all evil. Have we heard that, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Have we heard that? Those people, right? Those rich people over there. So there's conflicting beliefs. There's nothing sustainable. Nothing is sort of harmonious. Everything is conflicting. And this is often how we approach our life, or we hear things such as, you need money you need to make a living, you need to go get a good job, you need to, whatever it may be. And the definitions of who we are colored by the fact that we may have experienced our parents have an argument over money, right? We hear things such as, have you ever heard this? I'm breaking my back out there. And it's in the music, right? It's in our entertainment. It's in the books we read, the movies, the music that we hear. Oftentimes we hear about things such as like the struggle. You have to struggle to earn a living. You have to grind. You have to hustle. You have to do all these different things. And yet we hear, oh, but in order to, and then if you see that, but your earliest definitions of money is conflict, is anger, is frustration, then you're going to have a very different viewpoint on what money is. Money is just money. Money is just a piece of paper with a bunch of green paint, or ink, right? And if you're going to make money, well, then you should go buy a printing press somewhere and a whole bunch of green ink, and you can make money. See, so now as we get older, we start to realize we don't make anything. We generate, we attract it to us based on who we are. And who we are is made up of these beliefs, perceptions, assumptions, and definitions about who we feel that we are. So I wanted to talk about this from the perspective of, and you may have heard me talk about this in previous videos, that when when our brains turn on, when we actually, our consciousness or subconsciousness actually turns on, is in the third trimester. So when we're in our mom's womb, okay, we're a fetus. Everything mom has, however mom saw the world while we were being carried, whatever I just talked about, however, if mom's life at that moment or that time period was full of frustration, full of stress, full of uncertainty, full of anxiety, then that energy is being transferred from mom to you through the umbilical cord, that energy. So those earliest operating system mechanisms were being planted, those seeds were being planted in our brain, our subconscious from that point on. Once we actually emanate, we come into the world at age 0 to age 2. We are in delta brainwave phase, the slowest brainwave. So we are observing. We are observing this world. We are observing however things take place within our family structure. What are the conversations around money? What are the conversations just about life? What's the relationship between mom and dad? Is dad even there? Right? Was dad were you the product of a one night stand? See, all these different things and all this energy, all these beliefs, all these core definitions about who you are and about what is going on in your world are being foundationally laid. These seeds are being planted. Now, another child at age 0 could be born into a situation where everything is harmonious. Mom and dad's relationship is very conductive to a very harmonious existence. There may be plenty of money, lots of money, and the money was generated. It wasn't through this burning the candle at both ends and burning the midnight oil and all of that. And there is a very healthy relationship between mom and dad. That most likely is probably 1/10 of 1% of the population. The majority of people are raised in the first example. So from age 0 to age 2, we are in delta or observational phase. We're observing life, right? So we are seeing all this. There's the family unit. There's also the extended family. We are becoming enculturated at this point. What is your nationality, right? What is a nationality? Your last name. How is that culture? How does that culture define? How is that culture defined? Where did grandma and grandpa come from? And great grandma and great grandpa. Because all of that is being sort of woven into the fabric that is you. So now from age 2 to age 7, we are in theta brainwave state. This is we're still observing, but now we're starting to see things differently slightly, but we're in theta. This is the hypnotic phase of our life. We're under hypnosis because from 0 to age 7, as I mentioned, we're in the subconscious phase. So everything going into our brain is there's no consciousness yet. We're not conscious of anything. You can tell this by the majority of stories that you have about your childhood. You'll find people always saying, I think I was around 5, maybe 6, thereabouts, about 4. Never I was 1 or 2, because we can't remember because we're not conscious. But from 2 to 7, we are in the I'll give you something to cry about phase, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. I would like this or like that, and how hard. So now the conversations that were taking place between mom and dad are now starting to become more personalized, right? Because now, if you're asking for something and mom is or dad's having a bad day, it's being put back on you. So, this is where these definitions start to become, we start to create these definitions about ourselves in those early formulative years, right? So, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe if I wasn't around, they wouldn't be fighting so much. These are those thoughts that start to circulate within our heads. So they're starting to create these core beliefs and these core definitions about us, our definitions, our assumptions, right? Our perceptions. These are all starting to be sort of woven into us. And again, like I mentioned, those those first years, 0 to 7, is unconscious. From 7 to 12 is when we're in alpha brainwave state. That's a soft, sort of slow consciousness, but the consciousness is starting to develop. This is where we're conscious of things taking place. This is when we're really starting to kind of create our own identity. We're in school, circumstances are taking place, interpersonal connections and relationships with friends in school. This is when those alpha brainwave states are active, slower than beta, but and quicker, faster than theta, but we're starting to develop things now. From age 12 on, we're in right now beta brainwave states, and high beta is very stress induced. There's a lot of stress with high beta. But those first, and not obviously our whole life, but those first 0 to 7 to 10 years of our life are the foundational period of our life where we're really starting to identify and see how things are going in our life and creating these core definitions, beliefs, assumptions, perceptions, and definitions about who we are. So I just want to share a personal story. So this past week, my cousin, I referred to him respectfully as my uncle because he was about 23 or 24 years older than me. He passed away. And while I was attending the wake, um, his other sister was there. And he, my cousin, from an early age, around maybe late teens, early 20s, he married his high school sweetheart, and she had a twin sister, and the two husbands went into the family business, which was car sales. So the wife's father owned the dealership. Now, here's why I'm bringing this up, because he parted from his family and went and was exclusively with his in-laws, because car dealerships back in the 70s and even the 60s, very much kind of like today, where you're working all the time, including on Saturdays. So he was around that environment, whereas his biological family, his one sister committed suicide. His other sister marriage fell apart, and had a second marriage, which was okay. The sister that I spoke with the other night pretty much lives in an apartment, not much going on. The one sister who committed suicide, her daughter, interestingly enough, also has had a very challenging life. And at some point, I heard the other night that she had a couple of children that I guess she disowned or what have you. My cousin, who passed away, very much about the family because the Italian culture that he was brought up in, very much about family, kind of disowned her. And when the young girl found out that her uncle had passed, told my cousin, like, what do I do? What I don't know what to do, because she can never get over what Uncle John, how he treated her, how he thought of her. Now I'm bringing this up because it's, again, belief, definition, assumption, and perception about who I am. But here's why I'm bringing it up. The most important part. This is the point I really want to make certain I stress here in this video. You kind of get this. It's what we think of the external world, because everything I've just been talking about is external to us. So everything that I just explained to us here in this video is about how we react to what we perceive as the external world's opinion of us. And this is where we have to part with how we've been raised and how we've been living our life up until this point. So I want to transition now. And by the way, my cousin, second cousin, my cousin's niece, I guess, I'm trying to kind of sort of follow the tentacles here of the family. She never went to the wake or the funeral, and it's unfortunate because my uncle passed away. But that being said, that's what I picked up on right away. I thought, she's allowing that person to really define who she is. So I want to transition now to what we call this consciousness or conscious solitude, to kind of decouple ourselves or break ourselves away from this perceived world that we're living in. If you've heard me talk about in previous videos, and by the way, if this is your first time watching my video, welcome. And please go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe tab and the notification bell, because I'd like for you to watch all of my videos to really kind of get an understanding as to what we're doing here with these videos. So conscious solitude. You see, our brains, whenever we're in a relationship, and I'm not talking strictly or specifically about a romantic relationship, I'm talking about any type of relationship, family, friends, coworkers, what have you. Whenever we're around a lot of people, and society has taught us that we have to be around a lot of people. Like, take my one cousin about around family. Our brains actually operate at the lowest level. It's when we're consciously in solitude is when our brains are actually and actively working at the highest level. So I have some more notes here that I want to read off of. Okay. When you choose to be alone, truly alone, with your consciousness, you initiate a cascade of neurological events that reshape your brain. This is Dr. Joe Dispenza said this. Our prefrontal cortex, which is referred to as our CEO of our brain, that's the part that's responsible for higher thinking and emotional regulation. That becomes more active. The amygdala, which is also known as our fear center, begins to quiet down. This is not about being physically alone. It's about being energetically self-sufficient. When we master this, we stop operating from a place of need and start creating from a place of wholeness. From the moment we're born, society feeds us a powerful story. Now, I talked about that a few minutes ago, from age 0 or the third trimester. This is part of that story that we've been taught, okay? And it says here simply, and it's everywhere, this story, in our movies, our books, in the music, our family conversations that I just touched on, okay? The story, it goes simply like this. You're incomplete until you find the one, okay? This actually wires your brain into a state of perpetual seeking. Now, this is the part that I wanted to talk about. It's that part of us that we're feeling like, and you think about the music, think about some of the music we've listened to and grown up with, right? I remember some of you watching, you may remember a song by Elton John called simply The One, or the movie with Tom Cruise, where he's a sports agent. You probably know what I'm talking about. I don't know the name of it right now. But the big comment coming out of the movie was "Show me the money," but the other part, the other comment was "You complete me." Now that assumes then that you're incomplete without the other person, but this is the story, right? That we've been told. We've been told that this is how we have to find another person in order to complete us. We don't. Okay. So every time that we seek validation from another, our brain releases a quick hit, dopamine, but it's temporary, right? So what we want another hit, and we need it more and more. This is exactly the same neural pathway that creates addiction to substances. We're literally becoming addicted to other people's approval, their presence, and their energy. Think about that again. Every time we seek validation external to us, we get a hit of dopamine. And that's the same this hit that people who are addicts to substances receive. Okay, brilliant people. And sometimes we think of somebody who, oh, they're scientists, they're doctors, what have you. Oftentimes, brilliant people will operate on deeply embedded programs. They're brilliant, but they can't be alone. Okay, so every time they feel alone, their sympathetic nervous system turns on a fight or flight mode. Cortisol levels spike, increase heart rate, immediate, and then what they do is they reach for the phone, social media, or anything to find someone or anyone to connect with. And now, when these types of people, if and studies have been done and shown to scan their brain, what they found was that beta wave patterns they intensify the signature of an anxious seeking mind. But these patterns are not natural. This is the part that I want to talk about. I want to sort of hit home. These patterns that I just talked about, that Dr. Joseph spoke about, they're not natural. They are learned behaviors crafted by years and years of social conditioning. Think about this. When you wake up in the morning, the majority of people they pull up their phone, right? They'll look at emails, they'll look at social media. We are constantly around people. We are constantly seeking anything external to us. But the true power and uh, the way to become healthy is to go inward, is to be conscious solitude, to break us free of this emotional addiction, this addiction to emotions, the addiction to other people, being around the other people. Now, I'm not saying we should be a hermit and we should eschew any type of relationships. I'm not talking about that at all. But what I am talking about is going internal to then change this behavior and become more comfortable and complete, if that's a way of saying it. Because we already are complete. Think about this. You don't have to think about your heart beating, right? You don't have to think about your lungs allowing you to breathe or your DNA to repair itself. All that takes place without any consulting of anybody else. We do this. This is truly at our core, who we are. But the other part, the part that seeks validation, seeks approval, that's all learned behavior. This is all conditional from society. Society says. So think about the music you listen to. Think about the movies you watch or the programming. That's why they call it TV programming. The programming on TV that you watch. Become more aware of that. Like, what's the messaging behind the programming? What are the lyrics? What's the real message within the music? Oftentimes, what we're going to find is that it's about relationships. It's about being in the relationship. It may be a fractured relationship, right? Oftentimes it's the guy trying to get the girl back or the girl trying to get the guy back or whatever it may be. But it's all this, I need to have the connection with the other in order for me to feel whole. So I want to continue on here with this. And this is really, really important stuff to learn about our brains and how our brains are constantly scanning our external environment, looking for cues about what's safe or dangerous. Society, however, has programmed us to interpret solitude as dangerous, triggering the same survival mechanisms in our brain that our ancestors used to avoid being eaten by predators. So this looking, scanning, looking for things that are safe and dangerous is nothing more than a primitive mechanism within us that looked out onto the external for anything that any type of predators are going to try to eat us, but that we don't need that anymore. But we still do this to a certain degree, but we don't need it. We don't need to look external about anything, because what you're going to find, and what I've spoken about in previous videos, is that everything external to you is nothing more than a mirror, mirroring back to you how you speak to yourself, how you define yourself, how you perceive yourself in your life. What are your assumptions about yourself and your world? What are your beliefs, these core beliefs and definitions about who you are? So if you ever want to know about the answers to these questions, look at your life, look at the people in your life, look at your circumstances, look at your job, look at your income, look at your financial status. When I say status, I mean as far as how much money. What's your annual income? How much money are you generating? Where do you live? What area of the neighborhood do you live in? This is all derived from those. And if you want to change, you change internal. And as you change internal, all that starts to change, because all of that out there is nothing more than a reflection of inside here. So let's continue, okay? But every person is already complete, as Dr. Joe says, whole and at an energetic level. Right? I just mentioned heart, lungs, DNA, okay? The feeling of incompleteness isn't coming from real lack. It's not. It's coming from a program running in our brain that says you need somebody else to be complete. Every cell in our body, like I mentioned, knows this already. They know that we're complete, okay? So then the question is, why have we convinced ourselves that we need another person to be emotionally complete? We don't, again, I'm not talking about not being in a relationship with anybody. I'm talking about the emotional connection, the need to have that person in our life. That's what I'm talking about. We don't need emotionally need anybody we're already complete. And you're going to find that the more you recognize this and understand this, the healthier your relationship. The healthier relationship is with yourself. Again, the external world is nothing more than a reflection of how you treat yourself, how you think about yourself, how you talk to yourself. That's all reflected outside. You're going to like attracts like, right? So, or this. So you're going to you're going to attract to yourself those same types of people. So let's continue. Now, the neural paths that keep us trapped in seeking behaviors, okay, so the neural pathways in our brain that keep us trapped in seeking behaviors are these behaviors as far as the behaviors I talked about, not being enough, the beliefs, the perceptions, assumptions, definitions. They're like deep grooves in our brains, right? So every time we act on an urge to seek external validation, we are deepening these grooves. So I'd like for you to think of it this way. Every time we've always thought of somebody else, their opinion, it's kind of like, I would like for you to think of walking through a field and there's tall grass. And as you start walking through this field as an infant, you walk and, to kind of get the image in your mind, as you walk across this grass, this field, the the grass goes down, it snaps back up. But each time you walk across this, each time you seek validation, each time you look for something external in your life to validate who you are, this grass stays down. Each time you do it, it stays down longer before it snaps up. And eventually, it's like this path. So, this is what's going on internal in our brain. We have these deep grooves within our brain. And each time that we think of somebody else, or we think, or we react to somebody else, what they said, what they did, we're deepening these grooves, these neural pathways in our brain. However, the way neuroplasticity says that we can change this, we can literally rewire these grooves and create new grooves in our minds, in our brains. And we do that by going inside, by becoming emotionally self-sufficient, by being conscious solitude, by sitting with ourselves and allowing ourselves this time, the time to just be deplug from society. Okay, so Dr. Joe says here, we can rewire our brain. Okay, now people might say, but I can't be alone. I'm lonely. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be on my own. Understand this. There are two different definitions I want to talk to you about. Loneliness. Loneliness is what happens when we're unconsciously separated from others. So we're thinking we're separate from others. However, conscious solitude is when we're intentionally present with ourselves. So when we're intentionally present with ourselves, when we're not operating off of subconscious programs. See, because loneliness is that it's a subconscious program that says it's society saying you can't be alone. And again, I'm not talking about saying I'm going to walk away from all relationships and just be a hermit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being around people, being in relationships with people, but being yourself, understanding you're the one. You are complete. You're whole. You are enough. You are deserving and worthy of everything that is great in this world. I am complete and whole as I am. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Dr. Joe is talking about. It's this conscious solitude. It's this I am enough feelings, these thoughts, if I have to change anything, I go internal and I find the answers inside here, not outside there. They're in here. That's that perception. Okay. So, now when somebody is practicing this conscious solitude, their brain begins producing elevated levels of BDNF, and that stands for brain derived neurotropic factor, the brain derived neurotropic factor, which helps grow new neural connections. So when we sit in conscious solitude with ourselves, our brain waves begin to change. We move from high beta, which is stress, which is most of us live in this high beta every single day, into more narrow fields, into theta, which I just talked about earlier about us growing up, okay, into theta brain waves. And here is where the magic starts. While consciously alone, our brain becomes more coherent. Our brain regions begin to communicate. Possibly for most of us, for the first time ever, these brain waves start to communicate with each other. This is how you can hear about people saying, I went to meditation and I was actually able to heal myself because the body is so powerful. Inside of us, we have the greatest pharmaceutical within the world. Everything that is available for us to change or to heal ourselves is within us already. You've heard it before, placebo effect. Somebody gives you a pill and says, hey, I hear this is going to cure like magic crystals, let's say. These magic crystals will cure hemorrhoids. I mean, I'm going to buy chairs made out of crystals, right? I mean, it's a placebo. But how many times have you heard that? You take this pill, you'll feel better. You take the pill and holy shit, you feel better. it's the way we think, right? We trust the other person. If they're a doctor and the doctor says, "Here, take this, you'll feel better," you take, you're like, "Wow, I feel better." It's a placebo, but we have the power within us to do that. So the power is already within us to heal our bodies. If we can, you heard about books calling from Neville Goddard talk about feeling is the secret. Some of you may have heard that book, or the power of awareness. The feeling is the conviction. It's not an emotional feeling, it's a conviction. So this is what we're talking about, being having a conviction within yourself that I am whole, I am enough, I am worthy and deserving. We take our time each day to deplug from the outside world, and we have this. We consciously with a purpose, we go internal. So the ego wants us to stay active, stay around the drama and all that. So this is how we do it. When we sit with ourselves for just 10 minutes a day, quietly, alone, allow those feelings to come up. The feelings that I don't like doing this, I can't do whatever thoughts come up, and allow them to just kind of like my hand here, just kind of pass through. And as long as you do that, you fight, well, you're not really fighting because the ego wants to fight. You're just allowing the urge to go pick up your phone or to check emails or whatever it may be. This has to get done, that has to get done. Just allow those thoughts to sort of drift right past you. The more you allow that to happen, the less influence it's going to have, because the ego is going to realize it can't get its grips into you. So when you act on that, when you react, that's when the ego, or the book um, Reality Transurfing talks about the paradigm gets its hooks into us. When we allow those things to happen, when we give in, it tightens the grip it has on us. So we do this for 10 minutes a day. Maybe you can get up to 15 eventually. Start off with 5 minutes. Heck, just do it for 1 minute. Just look at the clock and say, okay, for the next minute, I'm going to sit here quietly, close my eyes, go inside, just allow yourself to see what comes up. Because what comes up is the withdrawal that says you have to do whatever. This is how we do it. This is how we're able to redefine ourselves, the assumptions we have of ourselves, the perceptions we have of ourselves, and the beliefs we have about ourselves. We allow ourselves to do this. We become conscious solitude. And as we do this, as we start to allow ourselves these thoughts to come up, what you're going to find is who you truly are, what's been sort of underneath all this crap all these years, is going to start to kind of rise to the surface. Think of it this way. Think of your life like a beautiful pond, a still, beautiful pond. And you look down and you can see right down to the sediment at the bottom. Each thought you have is like a rock going in there, and it picks up all the sediment. Now, as we start to recognize this and we start to just settle, we just sort of relax, we allow all that to settle to the bottom. And the beautiful crystal blue water, that water you can see right through, starts to come up. It's always been there. It's just all the crap, all the sediment has come up from the bottom because of all the thoughts, all the stuff that we've been told since we were, well, go back to third trimester when our brain turned on. All that stuff we've been carrying around with us, like if you think of this as like a bag you've been carrying, it was never yours. All those bricks, all those cinder blocks in that bag, they have never been yours. That's not who you are. It's time for you to let go. Take all those bricks, get out, and just empty that bag. You do this by doing it one day at a time, one thought at a time, maybe 1 minute meditation at a time. Eventually you build yourself up to 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. You do this, you are going to unleash this superpower that is within you. You're going to start to heal yourself. You're going to sleep better at night. your anxiety levels are going to drop. The amount of money you're going to generate in your life is going to increase dramatically. The relationships you have are going to become healthier. You're going to start to attract into your life those people who have always been there. Again, because of all the sediment in the water, you just couldn't see them. Now, you're going to be able to start to see them and see all the possibilities that are there, have always been there. And now you're going to start to see them. If you'd like any help with any of this, if you have anything personal, you'd like to have some coaching on, go to my channel, click on the link, and I'd be honored to work with you. Until I see you again, thank you so much. God bless and enjoy the rest of your day.